Lithium miners on the ASX have still put on strong gains for the month while the rest of the market has fallen. We do see the thematic of battery minerals and those exposed to lithium-ion batteries in one way, shape or another, whether it's the commodity or the supply chain, have continued to perform well. We have a look at the chart here on the left-hand side showing these groups. We've got 10 lithium battery-related companies, tantalum, cobalt, nickel and graphite, all being some of the best or in the top 10 performers on the ASX as a group and a thematic. We do see tin is number one, and we looked at that a couple of days ago. We're looking now at lithium being in the second place. Well, if you look through lithium, you can see the performance is really tracked on through to continue to be good movement. This is the brown line here, plodding along and then consistently performing. Doing well up until the 20th, when the rest of the market started to roll over. They did too, but they've started to round out. They didn't fall as much as the other minerals, and they've started to regain composure. The only one that's outperformed them has been tin. When we have a look at the top performers, we do see they have changed ranks a fair bit coming into the movement, but now we've got them ranked 1 through 6 here. It's these best performers over the last month. And then we also see their performances continue to plod on through and drag higher and higher. Even though they've had a bit of a blip with the rest of the market, they're still notably higher over the month. Then we're going to bring this out to have a look at the daily chart on the left-hand side, as well as a table of the top 6 lithium miners on the ASX. This shows the explosive movement that we have seen of lithium miners on the ASX. But first, we're going to have a look at the commodity itself to see what's pushing that supply side or the demand that is driving behind these commodities. This is the 1-year chart for lithium. As you can see, it really traveled sideways throughout March to October, but has continued to push higher in the last few months, pushing on up. Getting a better perspective of the 5 and 10 years, we can see how it did round out throughout lows, 18, 19 falling, 2020, and then as we get to the late part of 2020, it kicks off. Joe Biden coming in talking about critical minerals and then really pushing on that spurt to where it is today, just continues to climb. That's the lithium commodity itself. Now we want to have a look at the top 6 performers on the ASX, and we're going to start off with GL1 as being the 6th position. Now we've got global lift. We're going to bring that in to have a look at the daily chart, and you can see it moves in congestion periods and then spurts out with good volume breakout. Congests, 1 contraction, 2 contraction, a 3rd one, and then an explosive breakout. We've got a pocket pivot down here before it explodes and moves on up from 60 cents to $1.60. So we've got a few patterns that we're looking at here. Right, this breakout point, we've got the pocket pivot really shooting up. That's Gil Morales and Chris Kacher, and you can click on the link in the description below to learn more about that. It's coming out of a volatility contraction. 1st contraction, 2nd, and then 3rd, compressing down into the 50-day moving average. Volatility contraction pattern is the one used by Mark Minervini 4 times US trading championship winner. He's used it 4 times, and you can see how it's worked here for GL1. We also looked at that in great detail for the lithium stocks across the year of 2021 to see how they broke out and how they moved in patterns. So we did see the likes of Liontown Resources starting off earlier in the year with a breakout here. And then for the next 2 or 3 months, the rest of the lithium miners started to break out. Interestingly, they didn't all do it in a day or a week. They took months, and it was like a slow movement of dominoes ticking off the rest of the industry firing through. When you couple that with the likes of a volatility contraction and a pocket pivot for a timing entry, these are the best ways to trade patterns that we found on the ASX. Finally, we move into the high and tight flag, which works best, we found, with small mid-cap miners that have a strong thematic like lithium at the moment. Seeing them move from 60 cents to over $1.20, getting towards $1.80, they put on more than 100% in a straight line. That's the first criteria of a high and tight flag. And you can look at the tutorials and the downloads and the videos that we created on this pattern. What we want to see after the rally is that they congest here, well, in the top half, but ideally the top 3rd. We're seeing that right now. We want to see support in the rest of the group, which we're seeing here with these monthly performances and also weekly performances to some extent. We want to see them maintain that sort of level, and then ideally a pocket pivot or a high volume breakout from the congestion to trigger the next move. And statistically, there's a very high chance we get this sort of breakout movement, this sort of dollar price gain, share price gain from the breakout point once more. That's all just within GL1. Move on up to number 2, which is GT1. We're going to see Greentechnology, and you can see a good flick up movement here. Recent listing, recent IPO, November, December, trawling low, and then as the performance kicks in once again, the interest within lithium shoots up. We see them skyrocket, and then they're still creating that high and tight flag. They're holding on to it just, and as they consolidate and break out, that would be a trigger to look for more entry into GT1. Moving on up, we've got CHR, Charge of Metals, put on 60% gain for the month. So we're going to get the chart CHR on the left-hand side and see, as we zoom out, another listing in the last year, flicks on up, massive rally. This is working with that breakout that we're talking about when Liontown kicks it off, and then a lot of other lithium miners join the party. And then have one contraction, two, third, fourth, and then the fifth one. This is a volatility contraction pattern coming in. As we're seeing other ones break out, we see the likelihood of it rallying and extending its run, which it has done, and then it has pulled back, and it's starting to do that with a lot of volatility and losing ground. That is CHR is one of the stronger lithium miners on the ASX. ESS is one of the best performers, third best for this month. 93% gain over the month. We'll bring this chart across to see how that gain has really kicked on up. So the same sort of movement. We've got a whippy movement, but it is in the congestion periods, maintaining within the highs and the lows and contracting in the volatility. And we see the volume as well drop off dramatically throughout the month of December. From a relative performance, we can see here against the index, it does kick up and then really kicks into gear like the rest of the lithium stocks, really shooting up. Still meeting that high tight flag criteria, but has given up a lot of ground. Not the ideal structure that we see from ESS. Moving up to 1MC, Morella Corporation, same sort of thing. We're going to see on the chart here, 1MC recent listing. We do see most of this week's performance are recent listings on the ASX. Lithium miner moving from this or reverse entry to the ASX, moving from 0.1%, getting up to 0.4, good solid movement, and we're seeing the volume come in ebbs and flows. Tight congestion here, not showing a lot of selling happening here, but a good accumulation of volume. So these solid green bars here as it's being accumulated, climbing up the right-hand side, and then shoots on up. Does show good accumulation. Not heavy selling coming in here and maintaining this 10-day moving average. Good movement to see from 1MC. CRR, Critical Resources, we looked at this, but had to have an iron in the fire for tin exposure. We looked at them on Monday. You can see that flick up move. You've got the volatility contraction pattern, breakout, then has another fading back under the 50-day moving average, quick pop over, viable gap up with good strong volume, getting over the green line and then continuing that surge into the high and tight flag pattern that they're setting up for right now. That is CRR being the best placed lithium company on the ASX over the last month.